Ever get that feeling about someone you just met? Like you recognize something in them? Today we're going to deep dive into this idea that our emotional wounds might actually draw us to people with similar experiences.
Okay.
We're exploring this whole concept with insights from a relationship essay called Emotional Wounds in Me.
Yeah.
Quickly spot those with similar wounds.
Interesting title.
Right.
Yeah.
Get ready for some aha moment.
I'm ready.
So this essay, it's a personal essay.
Okay.
And it's all about this idea of recognizing emotional wounds in other people.
Okay.
And our mission today is to really understand this whole wounds attract wounds concept.
Right.
Explore how it plays out in relationships. And consider if it resonates with your own experiences.
Sounds good.
So
Yeah.
the author of this essay, he talks about
Okay.
this almost instant recognition he has when he meets women,
Okay.
particularly women
Okay.
who have specific emotional wounds,
Interesting.
even without consciously knowing
Right.
what those wounds are.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and he even calls it an invisible tag. This sense that people with similar emotional experiences are somehow marked.
But they have a sign or something.
Exactly.
Wow.
Leading to that instant recognition.
That's wild.
So he shares this really compelling story
Okay.
about meeting a college student, and he immediately sensed her hidden pain, despite barely knowing her.
Just like that.
Yeah, it was just this immediate kind of knowing.
That's so interesting.
And what's even more intriguing is that this recognition often happens beneath the surface.
Oh,
You know,
subconsciously. Yeah.
subconsciously,
Yeah.
It's not something he's actively thinking about.
Right.
It's just this feeling.
Got it.
And to kind of dig deeper into that,
Okay.
the author actually talked to a psychologist.
Mm.
And the psychologist suggested that his ex-girlfriend likely had matching emotional wounds, which, played a part
Yeah.
in their initial attraction to each other.
So it's not about being irrational.
No, not at all.
It's more like a subconscious pull
Exactly.
towards someone who might just inherently get it.
Understand her pain.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this central idea.
Okay.
Wounds attract wounds. It might feel a little uncomfortable at first,
Yeah, I can see that.
right?
Yeah.
This notion that we're drawn to people
Yeah.
who mirror our own emotional baggage.
It's not exactly a comforting thought.
Yeah, it's not.
Especially if you haven't really looked at your own wounds.
Yeah, and the author himself, he admits that he initially resisted this whole concept.
Makes sense.
He didn't want to believe it.
It's hard to face sometimes.
Totally.
But he did.
He did.
They came around.
He did. And it was through
Yeah.
a lot of self-reflection, really looking at his own life,
Right.
observing these recurring patterns
Yeah.
in his relationships.
Okay.
And he came to accept this idea.
Interesting.
He realized there was this undeniable tendency
Hmm.
to connect with people
Yeah.
who shared similar emotional scars.
It's like a magnet or something.
It really is.
Wow.
And this leads us to the question of
Okay.
what happens when two wounded individuals come together in a relationship.
Yeah.
The essay highlights
Okay.
this whole spectrum of healing
Okay.
with varying levels of emotional work,
Right.
self-discovery, really influencing the dynamic.
Makes sense.
So on one end of the spectrum,
Okay.
you have relationships where both people
Yeah.
have unhealed wounds,
Hmm.
and this can lead to a lot of hurt,
Yeah.
unhealthy patterns.
I can see how that would happen.
And it can even create
Wow.
this abuser-victim dynamic
Oh, wow.
where that unresolved trauma
Yeah.
is really fueling those cycles of pain.
That's a tough situation.
It is. The author uses this powerful analogy here,
Oh.
describing this dynamic
Okay.
as wounded tigers
Mm.
lashing out
Okay.
at any perceived threat
Uh-huh.
because of their own deep-seated pain.
That's a powerful image.
It is.
Wow.
It really captures
Yeah.
that potential for defensiveness, reactivity,
Yeah.
when unaddressed trauma is at play.
It really highlights the importance of recognizing those patterns.
For sure.
And the potential consequences
Yeah,
of ignoring them.
absolutely.
Mm.
It's a powerful image to think about.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's not all bad, though.
Right.
There's another side to this.
Okay.
On the other end of the spectrum,
Yeah.
are those relationships where individuals have really done the work
Okay.
You know, they've addressed their emotional wounds.
Mm-mm.
They've developed greater self-awareness.
And in those cases,
Yeah.
those shared experiences
Right.
can actually be a source of strength
Absolutely.
and support.
It's like
Yeah.
instead of two wounded tigers clashing,
Mhm.
you have these two people
Right.
who can approach the relationship
Right.
with more compassion and understanding.
Despite their scars.
Exactly.
And that's where this whole concept of emotional maturity
Right.
becomes so important.
It really does.
The author believes
Yeah.
that people who are more self-aware,
Yeah.
they tend to have a better grasp of their own emotional baggage,
Makes sense.
as well as their partner's experiences.
It's about recognizing those patterns,
Uh-huh.
like within ourselves,
Right.
understanding where our sensitivities and reactions are coming from.
And making that conscious effort to heal and grow.
Exactly.
Because if we're not actively working on ourselves,
Right.
we risk bringing those same unhealed wounds into each new relationship.
You're just going to keep repeating those patterns.
Yeah, and perpetuating those cycles of pain and dysfunction.
It's like carrying around.
Yeah, a heavy suitcase
Well, I like that.
full of past hurts
Uh-huh.
and expecting someone else to carry it for us.
It's a great analogy.
Yeah,
This essay really challenges us
it
to ask ourselves some tough questions.
like what?
Like, what kind of emotional baggage am I carrying? Am I subconsciously seeking out partners who reflect those same wounds?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And most importantly,
Yeah.
what steps am I taking to heal and grow so I can break free from those unhealthy patterns?
It's a powerful invitation
It is.
to really embark on that journey
Yeah,
of self-discovery and personal growth,
absolutely.
encouraging us to acknowledge our own emotional landscape
Yeah.
and take responsibility for our own healing.
And it also challenges us
Okay.
to examine the role of empathy in our relationships.
Right.
Are we open to understanding and supporting our partner's emotional journeys?
Even if their experiences are different from our own.
Exactly.
That's a critical point.
Yeah.
True empathy involves
Stepping outside of our own limited perspective and
Yeah.
genuinely trying to understand the world through another person's eyes.
even if their pain
Right.
doesn't directly mirror our own.
Exactly.
The author's observation about people without trauma
Oh, yeah.
pulling back in horror
Right.
when confronted with the emotional wounds of others.
It's really thought-provoking.
It is.
It highlights that potential disconnect between those who've experienced
Yeah.
significant emotional pain and those who haven't.
It's almost as if those who haven't walked through fire
Right.
might struggle to comprehend the intensity of the heat.
Exactly.
And that lack of understanding
Yeah,
can lead to feelings of isolation and
definitely.
invalidation.
For those carrying those heavy emotional burdens.
It makes it even more important
It does.
to find partners who
Yeah.
are not only willing to listen,
Right.
but who can also empathize with our struggles
Uh-huh.
and support our journey towards healing.
And remember
Yeah.
that empathy doesn't always have to come from shared trauma.
Right.
It can also come from a genuine willingness to learn.
To understand,
Yeah,
to offer compassion.
exactly.
But it's also important to acknowledge that
Okay.
sometimes, even with the best intentions,
Yeah.
relationships between two deeply wounded individuals
Right.
can become overwhelming.
Absolutely.
There's a risk of getting
Yeah.
so entangled in each other's pain that we lose sight
Right.
of our own individual needs
Of our own growth.
and growth.
Yeah.
We might even start enabling
Right.
unhealthy behaviors.
In an attempt to soothe each other's wounds.
Exactly.
Which brings us back to
Yeah.
the importance of,
Emotional maturity,
yes,
self-awareness, healthy boundaries.
it's about finding that balance
Right.
between offering empathy and support,
Yeah.
but also maintaining our own emotional equilibrium.
And pursuing our individual paths to healing.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
The author's final statement.
Okay.
For good or bad wounds, attract wounds. It's both a sobering reality
It is.
and a call to action.
It's a recognition that we can't escape
We can't.
the influence of our past experiences
Right.
on our present relationships.
But the power lies in how we choose to respond.
That's the key, isn't it?
It is.
Do we allow our wounds to control us, dictate our choices?
Perpetuate those cycles of pain.
Or do we take ownership of our healing
Right.
and create relationships that foster growth and mutual understanding?
That's the question.
It is. We'll leave you to ponder that
Yeah.
as we move into the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm ready. It's almost like we have this internal radar, picking up on signals from others who've experienced similar emotional hurts.
Like we're tuned to the same frequency.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's as if
Yeah.
a part of us recognizes a kindred spirit.
In that shared experience of pain.
The author actually calls it seeing with emotional eyes, suggesting there's this deeper level of perception.
Like it goes beyond just surface appearances.
It recognizes that shared vulnerability, that common ground forged in those difficult experiences.
It makes you wonder if navigating those emotional complexities, those internal struggles, might actually heighten certain sensitivities.
Interesting thought.
It's like developing a finely tuned sense of empathy.
Like you're more attuned
Yes.
to those emotional cues
Exactly.
that others might miss.
It reminds me of that saying,
Oh, yeah. What's that?
hurt people hurt people.
Right.
But maybe it's more accurate to say, hurt people, recognize, hurt people.
I like that.
It's not necessarily about inflicting pain,
No.
but rather about this ability to see and understand the pain in others.
Because we've experienced it ourselves.
Exactly.
And that recognition can be a double-edged sword.
Right. It can go either way.
It can.
It can lead to those unhealthy patterns if both people are kind of trapped in those cycles of reactivity.
In unhealed wounds.
Unhealed wounds, yeah.
But with conscious effort,
Okay.
self-awareness, a commitment to growth.
Right.
It can also be a profound catalyst for healing and connection.
It highlights the power of choice.
It does.
Our past experiences don't have to define us.
We have the agency to decide
We do.
how we integrate those experiences into our narrative
How we allow them to shape our relationships.
and how we choose to move forward.
The essay doesn't offer like a step-by-step guide.
No, it doesn't,
Right, that's
but it emphasizes that the journey begins with self-awareness,
okay.
acceptance, and a willingness to confront those wounds with compassion.
It's about recognizing those patterns
Yeah,
and taking responsibility
for sure.
for our own emotional well-being.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we invite you
Yes.
to reflect on your own experiences.
Think about those people
Yeah.
you've been drawn to.
The people you've connected with.
In your life,
Have you noticed any patterns?
any shared experiences,
Shared experiences, yeah.
emotional wounds.
Emotional wounds.
How has your own self-awareness impacted those relationships?
It's a really personal question.
But one worth pondering.
Absolutely.
Understanding our own emotional landscape.
Right.
And those patterns we repeat, it can empower us
It can.
to make more conscious choices.
More fulfilling choices.
In our relationships.
And we can move beyond
Yeah.
simply reacting to our wounds
Right.
and start actively choosing those connections.
the kind of connections we want.
Yeah.
And remember,
Yeah.
even if you've experienced significant trauma,
Or emotional hurt,
you're not destined.
to repeat those patterns.
Healing is possible.
Healing is possible.
And with it
Yeah.
comes the potential
For deeper.
for more meaningful connections.
This essay reminds us
It does.
that while wounds may attract wounds, it's those conscious choices we make.
The commitment to personal growth.
Right.
The cultivation of empathy.
That ultimately determine
Yeah.
whether those wounds will bind us.
Or set us free.
Powerful stuff.
It is.
So on that note,
Okay.
we'll leave you with this final thought. What if,
Okay.
instead of fearing or shying away
Yeah.
from those who reflect our own woundedness, we saw them?
As potential allies
Yes.
in the journey of healing.
What if, in recognizing our shared humanity, our shared vulnerability,
We found
not just understanding, but also the strength
to move forward.
to move forward together
Towards a place
of greater wholeness.
That's beautiful.
It is.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope it sparked some reflection
I think it has.
and maybe even inspired a
Yeah.
deeper understanding
For sure.
of those powerful connections between our emotional experiences
Right.
and our relationships.
Until next time,
Yes.
keep exploring
Keep questioning.
and keep diving deep